We've reduced our hours and we open it just at peak times. Even over the summer, we're like 4 o'clock to 9:30. We cook everything fresh to order. Nothing's cooked until it's on the board, on the screen, pings on the screen. We're like a military operation whenever it's going, but like, everyone has to, everyone in that shop is as important as there's nobody. It would tell me how good my fish and chip shop is. I said, come a week in the summer, I'll pay you for a full week's work, starting a Monday morning and finishing a Sunday night, and document it. And none of them has took the opportunity yet. And I said, whenever you go home on a Sunday night, you'll realise what it takes to work in this industry for a busy week. At the start of COVID, it was probably the most horrendous time that us as a family have had, because our second store, it was the big store. We had invested everything that we had into it, and we were probably about 3 days away from opening whenever the government shut everywhere down. So we got no help, no grants, and invested every single penny we had. We have a young family, and we were probably 6 weeks where we were really, really worried. We found it was probably the best thing that happened to our shop then, and it gave us the real good foundation. Our smaller shop, we had maybe 2 to 3 years of working with Flipdish and online order, and we had that online order and platform whenever we opened again in COVID. All of a sudden, we were the leading place that had everything in place to do online ordering.
Okay, welcome to this Flipdish Takeaways podcast. Today I'm joined by Gareth Montgomery from Chipmongers. Gareth, thanks so much for coming down.
No, thank you for having me. It's great to be here and sort of starting to put some faces to names that I've been sort of dealing with in the north for quite a while.
Great, well that's good to hear, and yeah, you're absolutely very welcome. So we were kind of hashing it out there just before we started rolling. Can you tell me what your relationship to Chipmongers is? What's the LinkedIn bio? Take me through that.
Yeah, Chipmongers started as a franchise through Musgrave, which we bought into. We thought the brand and everything was great. So that's going right back to probably 8-9 years ago. It has evolved that we're the only Chipmongers in the north now. We don't fall under any franchise guidelines as such. So we look at the Chipmongers as ours in the north, and myself and my wife, we were the owners and look after it like it's our own brand, and we have sort of developed over the years, and that development over the years has been helped right with Chipmongers right from word go from 8 or 9 years ago, whenever online ordering was probably unheard of for in the north where we were, but that has just evolved, and it's something that we've enjoyed the journey, and it has completely changed in the last 8 years.
And what got you into that in the first place? Like 8 or 9 years ago, were you always in the food business, or was it a career pivot?
No, I think it kind of was a career pivot. We were in ospitality. We owned a bar and a restaurant and stuff. The opportunity came up, and it was through Musgrave we were buying stuff, and I saw in the background they were advertising this new brand that they were launching, Chipmongers, and it just sort of evolved from there. We always had a passion for food. The bar and stuff we had good food there, and we started. We'll go and we'll open a fish and chip shop, and that evolved from there. From just got totally engrossed in the food industry and where we could actually take it.
And did you keep the bar, or did you move away from that completely?
At COVID time, we were a small village bar, and we just had opened our second Chipmongers into the store that we're in at the moment, and we just had opened it. And with the COVID thing, then where we opened in the seaside town, and we could see the potential where we were, and we gave up the lease in the bar, and we focused just purely on, which pretty much everything we do now is just based on fast food takeaway type style of food.
And was COVID particularly challenging in that space, or did you find like actually that was one of the probably the better areas to be in food at the time?
I had this conversation with a customer in our shop about 3 days ago. At the start of COVID, it was probably the most horrendous time that us as a family have had, because our second store, it was the big store. We had invested everything that we had into it, and we were probably about 3 days away from opening whenever the government shut everywhere down. We weren't physically open and hadn't traded, so the government classed us as not a business, so we got no help, no grants, and we had about 6 weeks at home where we had invested every single penny we had. We have a young family, and we were probably 6 weeks where we were really, really worried. But on the flip side then, whenever we eventually did get to open, during the middle of COVID, whenever they said that fast food takeaways could open again, we found it was probably the best thing that happened to our shop then. And it gave us the real good foundation. And probably the biggest thing with that was, with our smaller shop, we had maybe 2 to 3 years of working with Flipdish and online order, and we had that online order and platform in place, which anywhere else around us hadn't. And whenever we opened again in COVID, we all of a sudden we were the leading place that had everything in place to do online ordering during COVID.
Great, so it worked out kind of advantageous then that you
and it'd be easy for me to sit here and say, oh, COVID was awful, but it probably was the making of our shop.
No, absolutely. And it obviously depends on the industry. I know I was working in the travel industry at the time, like obviously a terrible place to be, but there was definitely certain parts of hospitality that did really well. And I know Flipdish was thriving during COVID, obviously, because it was a lot of the technology was government mandated almost at the time, right? You guys obviously got in there a little bit before that. So would you say COVID, that 6 weeks, was that the most challenging time with the business, or have you had any other particular big bumps in the road?
I think this whole industry's totally changing, and every year there's a new set of challenges. Once we got over COVID, then there was the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis. It just seems to be one thing after another. So it's just, I think that's probably, I think deep down, is it something that we thrive on? Is it just problem solving all the time, and you nearly get immune to problems, and it's just, you always know there's always going to be, and it's, I think you can't get fixed down in that. It's just the way things is in this industry, and you just have to keep looking for solutions and keep moving forward.
I've always found from talking to people within this industry, and been lucky to do it with the podcast, is people within hospitality, particularly in fast food, the level of resilience is unbelievable. Like, because you're constantly getting stuff thrown at you. Like you said, energy costs, just the cost of food. Down here, obviously, we've had the VAT issue as well, with that going back up to 13.5%. So
we're 20 in the north.
Yeah, like how do you?
People say that. How do you do that? But you have to find a way. So you do, and that's just realistic. You have to find a way to make it work.
And you just find then you're just pushing costs then onto the consumer then, basically.
Yeah, but we found that whenever we come out of COVID and all these things started happening, we've always had a choice to make, where you either go with quality or you're a price-based shop, and I think both work. Separately, you can have a shop that's based on price, and you'll have customers who'll work with that. You have a shop that's based on quality, and I think those two business models work. And I would not say here that if you're not doing it the way I'm doing it, you're wrong. I think they both work. So we made a decision, but you can't do both. That's one thing that you can't do. And shops that do try to do both are shops that'll find you end up in trouble.
Yeah. So you guys are on the quality side?
Yeah, well, we base our shop. We're only as good as the produce that we buy in and the staff that we have. You can't get really good staff and pay peanuts, and you can't produce really good quality by buying in per produce. So we made that decide. And on the flip side, you can't. There's no point of buying in per quality and expect to have good staff that can wave a magic wand that just doesn't work. And we get a lot of customers say that to us. What do you do that's different? And I'm like, well, we don't have a magic wand. We have good staff, and we buy good produce, and we cook it with a bit of pride and passion.
And how many staff do you have working for you at the moment?
Yeah, with us being, well, through all the organisations, over the summer we could have between 50 and 60 staff.
Wow.
That will cut down now at this time of the year to probably about 20. That's probably our biggest challenge, with us being a seasonal business. We're a seaside town. All our businesses are in seaside towns, which we find then it's the consistency of getting those, like, where we're having to upscale by from 20 to 50 staff. It's getting those staff trained really quickly, and we work with a lot of students who are coming into the area or coming home from university and other places, so we're constantly training, and training staff and retaining staff's probably our biggest cost to our business.
And how long would you say it takes to train a staff member? Like from the day you hire them, when would you be comfortable to go, they're good to go, I'll leave them by themselves?
That varies so much. We bring staff in and we normally say to them, you've a 2-week training period here where you're shadowing someone for the first week, trying to do a lot of it on your own for the second week. Sometimes you get a staff member that has 2-3 shifts and they're like, that person's grand, they're on that, or someone else who needs that little bit more, and that becomes being able to manage the individual. I don't think we would be able to get staff if we just said, right, there's a 2-week training period, you can't do the job after that, that's it, you're away. I've probably learnt more of that. I was probably, why can someone not get that? I've had to change and adapt, and some of the staff that we have that's really good is probably staff that I thought after 2 weeks they're not going to make it, but things eventually click.
Go and name some names there.
We'll not name drop anyone.
So that's obviously, you're taking 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks to get somebody up to speed, and then you only have them for maybe a 3-month period, right? Yeah, so then they're gone again. And what like, is there always a pool of people there? Is it difficult to get people in?
That's probably that's such a hard thing for us, because we do training and we're bringing the staff in. We try to get them trained whenever it's quiet. We get an awful lot of younger ones. We've maybe spent that 3 weeks, and then we go from, our shop just goes completely off the scale with how busy it is on orders, and it's, if you don't buy into the procedure that we do, you're like a rabbit stuck in headlights. And we find an awful lot of staff, we've done that 3-week training with them, they're getting on great. They get the first real total mayhem Saturday night, and we get a text message on a Sunday morning, I'm not coming back, I can't do that anymore. Which we can understand. This is an unforgiving business. It's hard work for that staff, and we lose a lot of staff now and again we have a Tesco's pretty close to us.
Okay.
And they go in there and they stand and they get it easier. And if someone's looking for an easy job, we've always said to them, hospitality is not the place for you. It's going to be hard work. But what we've always said to any of the students and stuff that have been with us, if you can do a summer season or do a season in Chipmongers with us in a seaside area, you'll be able to go and work anywhere, and it'll stand you in good stead in whatever you do. And the ones that do that there, they build up a resilience that they can move on then. And we've had people that has come from us who've moved on, opened their own business and stuff, but that comes with having that resilience. And we feel quite proud whenever we see some of our older staff that has went on and opened their own business and stuff.
It's great that they pick up those like transferable skills, right, that they can take like outside of that. And I always think it's one of those things, either retail or hospitality, everyone should work in that at least once in their life, right? Yeah,
I firmly believe that, and we've said that all along. And those two industries that you're talking about there, and I know the hospitality industry side of it. If you can make a name for yourself in hospitality, those skills will take you to any job career that you want to move on, and it'll give you a resilience that you will not get that experience anywhere else.
Yeah, I think when people talk about like fast-paced environments, they're always talking about tech companies and things like that. But you obviously haven't done a Saturday night in Chipmongers. If you,
No, definitely not. Like we on a Saturday night in Chipmongers now, we've reduced our hours, and we open it just at peak times. Even over the summer, we're like 4 o'clock to 9:30, and we're 1,000 miles, 4 o'clock to 9:30, and that is
whoa.
That has to be and we cook everything fresh to order. Nothing's cooked until it's on the board, on the screen, pings on the screen. But we're like a military operation whenever it's going, but like everyone has to, everyone in that shop is as important as, there's nobody not as important, but you have to buy in and stick to your training and stick to your role and stick to your job, and it works. If you saw inside our shop, like our area where all those food goes out, it's about 2 meters wide. That's all our counter space that we've got, one till.
Wow.
And we can produce that. But we only can produce that with Flipdish online ordering and self-service kiosks.
Oh, so you have the kiosks in store as well?
Yeah. They're in now about, we put them in, if we've done 2 summers with them now. And again, it was, how do we try? We always try and hold on. We talk about holding on to the shirt tail of all the big companies. And we look at what the big companies is doing and we think, how can we stay up to date with that? And you have to embrace technology. I am self-taught, type with one finger, have know nothing about technology, but we rely. We have an operations manager on board now who's very techy, and him and I think some of the guys here in Flipdish, they love that whole side of things, and he just comes to me and I'm like, I come up with these crazy ideas and he goes away and works with Flipdish and they come back with a solution.
Brilliant. And obviously in those really peak times, the kiosk definitely helps kind of manage some of that kind of extra customer. Yeah,
well, we done a survey that, like, so phone orders, for instance, a phone order on average was taking 7 minutes in our shop. We only have one POS on one phone. So that one person, if you looked at how many orders they could physically take in a 1 hour period, we couldn't make a sustainable business. Whereas our online Flipdish orders takes no time. They just appear on our screens. And the kiosk takes no time. They just appear on the screen, which for us, we couldn't take enough orders at our peak times to make us sustainable 12 months of the year in a seaside business if we didn't have online ordering and kiosks. And the amount we wouldn't have a business.
The customers you'd lose to obviously people not being able to get through on the phone, then calling a competitor and ended up ordering from them, right? If somebody doesn't get through, people are impatient, right? So
that's the thing. People are impatient, so they are, and they want to be able to order. And at peak times now, we used to always have someone physically just always on the till, answering the phone, or people coming in and taking the shop. Now we utilise with the kiosk, we utilise that person somewhere else.
Great, yeah. So that's now a whole job you don't need, and it's never going to call in sick, right? Or it's never going to.
It doesn't call in sick, you know. And that's just you have to move on with technology. There's no and fairness, our customers they do it. Whenever we go to quieter times, sometimes people like coming in and they come into the counter and stuff. But the majority of customers understand, like, if you walk into our shop in the middle of August on a Saturday night, you know those staff are under pressure, and people go, and the majority of people go and use the kiosk. There is still a certain degree of people who want to come to the till and order, which we have no problem with that. Like, but sometimes in peak times they have a little bit more of a wait, and you can see people who are maybe standing at the till waiting, and you maybe have a 10-15 minute wait till we get someone freed up to take your order. Someone who's come in after them, went to the kiosk, put their order in, and they've got their bag of food and they're away, and you can see that person starting to think, I probably should have used that kiosk.
Well, that's good, and that's how the culture changes, and it kind of moves towards that. It's nice that you have both options, though, and I think that is important, because there's, it's a generational thing, I think, as well. Maybe the younger generation is more used to just going in and logging onto a kiosk and getting their order.
I was speaking just with the guys there before I came in here. We were very surprised that, I would probably say, my generation and older that used the kiosk.
Really, yeah.
Even on quiet times, would come in and you think that person's definitely coming to the counter to place their order because they want to chat, and they just go to the kiosk.
Great.
So they do, and that was probably our biggest surprise with kiosks. We thought the kiosk was a generation that was going to use it, but it seems to be now that people are getting used to it. We would have as many of my generation and older that use it than we do have as with young people.
That's great to hear, because I know particularly I have a sister who's 11 years younger than me, and like trying to get her to make a phone call to ring a takeaway, there's not enough money in the world to get her to do that. If she can do it on an app, she'll do it that way, So,
and I found myself, I would have been totally opposite in that generation where that was not part of it. If I'm at home or anything now, whenever I go to look about ordering food, I end up ordering it on my phone or an app or something. It's just the way the world's going. I think the big bulk of the population is changing to doing that, and it's becoming the norm.
And do you work with any of the marketplaces? Are you on Just Eat or Deliveroo or Uber Eats?
No, we don't, and it's be very easy for me to say here we don't, because we don't want to. I think in this industry, there's not the room for the fees that some of those bigger platforms and stuff that use. It'd be easy for me to say it. That's the main reason. Another side of it why that we don't, 'cause we probably don't have to, because the likes of those platforms don't have the majority of the market share where we're at.
Okay.
That is growing, but we still think that we're leading with Flipdish.
It's brilliant to be in a position where you don't have to rely on them.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the customers that we have, obviously, it's a case of, you know, they're very reliant on the marketplaces, and then they're kind of subsidizing that with, and it's a kind of a gradual over a year or two with Flipdish where they migrate those customers.
Yeah.
But it's great that you're starting in that place where your base is already ordering direct from you through Flipdish.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you might add in the marketplaces eventually, but it won't be your sole online ordering.
It'll be. We work very, very much on facts and figures, and we base everything percentages. And for what some of those platforms are looking for, we'll be taking a higher percentage of my top line than what I would be taking. And what we have left, where we're working very much in single digit figures. That's how tight things is at the moment.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to say I would never, but I don't want to have to give a third party platform more money than what I'm having to maintain all the risk.
No, it's brilliant to hear that, and that you're in that position. So hopefully more restaurants will end up in like that, because you do hear a lot of just, they feel like it's a, you know, kind of a gun to the head situation where if they're not on there's no orders, but if they
we see it. We're members of the National Fish Fryers Association, and we can see it in some of the groups that we're in where people are like in bigger cities, maybe in the UK, where they like, all of our orders or majority of our orders comes through those platforms that are having to pay those high percentages, and they're like, if I'm not on that, I don't have a business. That's an awful position to be in. Mm-hmm. And it would be easy for me to say, just get away with it, do it, because I'm not in that position. Mm-hmm. But I think if I was in that position, it's an awful position to be in, having to do it, because this is a hard industry to be working, to be giving out those. And I'm not saying that some of those guys are, that some of those platforms are wrong if they feel that that's what they need to be charging, but those percentages just physically are not available in this industry at the moment with all the rising costs. There's no way it is.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those kind of cases where it's like we look busy and the orders are coming through, and it's like, we did X amount of orders tonight, great. But actually, like you said, when it comes to the bottom line...
When it comes to the bottom line, if you're not... And that's an awful position to be in for people that are... And there's a lot of takeaways in this industry now are in that position.
Okay, pivoting a little bit to maybe something more positive. Any big milestones or big moments in the last 9 years that you've been working as under Chipmongers? Anything that stands out as like, wow, that was a great moment for us in business?
I'm not sure if there was one defining moment. I think once we started getting recognition, and again, it's recognition for winning some awards and stuff like that. There wasn't one that specifically was a definitive moment, but I think for customers we're in, I personally don't really like entering them. Anytime we win them, we dedicate it to the staff. It's the staff that win them. There's the wife and I, we have all these crazy ideas, but without the staff, it's them that does the implementing and turn up every Saturday night and do all that. So that side of things, I don't really like entering them, but I think it's something for marketing and for customers, and in this industry where you're fighting for customers week in, week out. And it is nice to get the recognition and stuff like that there, but I think once you start getting that sort of recognition and for your hard work, I think that we can see that loyalty, or people coming whenever we're at seaside town, people coming in and they're talking to some of the staff and they're saying, I saw that you won an award, Fish and Chip Shop of the Year or something like that there. And we do get people who come and travel for the likes of that, and that's good for the staff, and it gives the staff something to be proud of. Mm. We've always said whenever the staff in the town that we're working in, take pride in where you work. we're a fish and chip shop, but predominantly it was something that people didn't maybe take pride in a lot of years ago, but now it is something in this industry. Be proud of where you work.
Absolutely, and it's a huge part of the community, and people kind of connect with. I think it's always been seen, particularly here. Obviously, grew up in Dublin, like your local chip shop. You knew the people in there. You went in for a chat.
Yeah.
It was very much a kind of community focused.
Yeah, and I think the good thing where we live probably 45, 50 minutes from where the shop is. So we live, and we've moved back to the town where I grew up in and stuff. And I love stopping off in the chip shop that I grew up going to and using, and I still go in and I still order the same thing that I ordered whenever I was at school. And it's great talking to some of my friends and stuff whenever you're back there, and they're like, whenever they move back and they're talking about, oh, we such and such, and did you order this? And you order? We're like, yeah, we all still order the same thing that we go back, that I probably wouldn't order from my own chip shop, but I love getting back into the one in the village and ordering what we ordered whenever we were kids, and still love it every bit as much.
Love that. I'm going to talk a little bit. Obviously, you mentioned your awards and things, which is a great complaint to have, and it's very nice that you dedicate those to the staff. Do you promote that a lot on social media? Do you use social media a lot? Like, what are your kind of channels there for kind of advertising?
Yeah, we probably don't use social media enough.
Okay.
So we don't, and it's something that we probably put to the back of the burner. And as much as we'll talk about, we're leading in a lot of different things on that side of things. It's something that we have a big question mark now, that over the next few months, whenever we quieten down, we need to work a lot harder on our social media presence, as in just putting up one post on Facebook every week is not having a social media presence anymore. And that's probably one of the side of the business where we need to work harder at, and to engage a different clientele of customer base.
Yeah, it's something that I've spoken to obviously a wide range of customers about, and I just think it comes down to either you do it yourself, and it's an incredible undertaking because you're saying it's not just a one post every week. It's constantly updating different social accounts, slightly different content for your Facebook audience, to your Instagram audience, to maybe TikTok if you're on that as well. So it's one of those, or you bring in obviously a marketing agency, and then it's, is it worth the money? Are we getting return on investment there? So it is a tricky one to kind of navigate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a real tricky one. We're always at that. But everything that we try to, we have to be mindful of what we spend money and invest money on, and we can't waste money. And that return on investment becomes something now that we're really going to have to look at. We get an awful lot of these influencers who is a massive question mark over our industry at the moment. That they are influencing a generation of people, and it's whenever they come to shops now, and they're saying they've got so many followers and all this, and they're doing this here, and they've got a fee for doing it, which I understand. They're trying to run a business. We have to move with those times, but I think, me looking at it from a business, if an influencer is listening to this here and they're coming to me, don't come to me that I've got 50,000 followers. Tell me how many of those followers are in my area, and how many of those are possibly going to use my shop, that I can try and work out a return on investment. And that's what a proper business owner will look at, that where do I get this return on investment? There's no point of 50,000 people in London looking at my fish and chips in November in Port Stewart. I'm not going to get anything from that.
Yeah, and that is one of those things, and I think a lot of people just see the number and aren't discerning about where that audience is. There's obviously ways to inflate your follower count as well, which is, widespread as well. So it's something you have to, but it's interesting to hear you kind of say that. I've spoken to people who are very anti the influencer idea, and then I also spoke to Michael from the Food to Go. I'm sure you've come into contact with, and he was very positive about them as well. He felt like they were really adding to the industry, but obviously it depends on, is the influencer in the area that you're like, are there followers in that area?
And I think, and how close do we go to the fence with what I say here on an influencer? I can't just start selling fish and chips without doing my research and knowing what I'm doing and know my business inside out. there's a marketplace out there, and I think there is a few now that if you know your influencer business inside out, and you can go to, I think once people start doing that there, I think they'll start cleaning up. The one thing that I would like to put out there, and it's right on the wire, and I think I'll speak for nearly every business in our industry or locally, whenever these people are doing reviews and they talk about price, unless you know how that business gets to their selling point, I don't think it's the right influence on and review on everything else, but definitely not on price. That's the one thing that businesses will turn against influencers. And I think there is a place where we can all work together, and I think that can be really good for the industry. But based on price and saying that someone's too expensive or that was really cheap, I know the general public maybe want to hear things like that there, but you can't talk about someone's price unless you know what their overheads, etc. is, like rates, rent. That's how we work out how we get a price. All that has to come in. We have all our fixed costs generate what our price will be. And someone who's in a village 3 miles down the road who's maybe not having to pay rent, their rates cheaper, they can sell at a cheaper price, and I have no problems with that. But I think influencers there's a real gap in the market for a few of them if they get all that right and put this together as a proper legitimate business and work with places where they're going to try and review and influence. I think the future is that there is a place for them.
It's a pretty tricky one, and I imagine it is a tough thing to do as an influencer, because you need to maintain your integrity, right? If you go to review somewhere and it's bad, you have to say that. But the damage that will then do to the business is obviously, so you know.
My take on that there is, influencers have to be paid if they're going to run a business. So they're going in somewhere, like a business like myself is inviting them in and paying them an agreed amount to be doing that. If I'm doing that and that influencer puts on a bad report or a bad review or says that it's not great, I agree with that to a certain degree, but I think they have to sit down and give that feedback of why they thought and know their industry, know their, and be able to give that, the owner of that business, say, look, this wasn't good because of X, Y, and Z, and give that business that opportunity then that they can go and fact, but they have to know this industry before they can start giving negative. It has to be, not negative feedback is probably not the right word, but it has to be critical feedback that business owner, that the two of them can sit down and improve and make their business better. As far as you get a lot of people now who are influencers getting feedback that people are starting to say to them, well, sure, you're always going to have to put on a good review, that business paid you for doing that. So there is a grey area there, which I can see from the influencers part of few. As far as I think the way it goes forward is influencers who are going to be serious about it and want to make a business about it have to start embracing and learn this industry and know what you're talking about. And not only just in the taste of food, know what you're talking about in the business side of things, that why a business owner is doing what he's doing. Yeah. And I think if they do that there, I honestly think, I firmly believe that they're here to stay, and they will work well together. I've put it out there to a few of them. A few of them have contacted me and did they want to do a review, and they would tell me how good my fish and chip shop is. I said, come a week in the summer. I'll pay you for a full week's work, starting a Monday morning and finishing a Sunday night, and document it. I said, I'll pay you for a full week. And none of them has took the opportunity yet. And I said, whenever you go home on a Sunday night, you'll realise what it takes to work in this industry for a busy week.
That sounds like a great piece of content as well.
I would love someone to do it.
Yeah.
And I would love some of them to take it really serious and come and do it.
It's crazy to think that that job just didn't exist like 10 years ago. Influencer. Yeah. Like it just wasn't a
I think influencer didn't exist 10 years ago, but there was always food reviewers.
Yeah, true.
Who probably have got pushed by the wayside at the moment because they maybe haven't got a social media presence, and it's those guys that I feel sorry for. For a food reviewer 10 years ago knew this industry inside out, and a food reviewer 10 years ago would have been someone who I would have went to for advice.
Yeah.
Would I go to any of them at the moment for advice? I'm yet to be proved wrong.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So you're obviously, you and your wife are in business together. Does that pose any challenges? Does the work follow you home?
Yeah.
Careful.
Yeah. It does. And I'm probably the worst for it. I'm engrossed 24/7. We've got a young family. Well, a family from 19 to the youngest one's 8. 3 girls.
Wow.
It's either talk about work at home sometimes, or it's playing with dolls. But no, I struggle to find that balance, and and sometimes the wife has to quietly remind me that I'm not at work now and I need to switch off and stuff. And it's hard because it does totally engross you 24/7.
It's your baby, right?
Yeah. I think on the way down on the phone and the way down the road today, 2.5 hour drive down here today, and constantly on the phone with the operations manager or some of the chefs, and then I was on the phone with my wife the whole way down, and sometimes then I think it was actually the wife was like, "Go down there and enjoy yourself and switch off for a day," and I was like, that's my hardest thing, switching off, hardest thing.
And is there anything that allows you to do that, or any tips and tricks, or is it always on?
I'm probably always on at something I need to work harder at. I definitely do.
But your wife, she can switch it off if she needs to?
Yeah. She's the glue that keeps the whole thing together, and that's me being honest. She does as much work in the shop as she possibly can, but we have a home, where you have to come away from that at time, and she's really, really good at that, and really good at giving me the gentle nudge whenever I have to be doing more of it.
Yeah, and it's a tricky thing. I've run my own business before, and that if you don't do it, it's not getting done, right? So it's not a case of, if you're working in a company like this, you close your laptop, the place won't go on fire without you, but that there's a certain amount of responsibility you have that just...
And that's probably a side of the things where I need to work better. And say I'm working better, I still don't think that I can switch off as much. There's always something there, and I'm always on alert, and I'm always there that if something goes wrong, and it was probably if someone phones in sick, I just automatically think, right, that's me. If I'm not at work, I have to go in. I'll do it, and that's stuff that we've grew quite significantly in the last 18 to 20 months, which we feel that we've had to keep doing that there because percentages are so small. We've had to increase turnover, and that come with investment in different areas. With that there, it just becomes more responsibility, and we're leading in the dark in that side of things. Like, it's not, we haven't got a blueprint to follow, and we get things wrong, and anything that goes wrong, I take full responsibility for it. Whereas on the other hand, whenever things go well and you win awards, we dedicate it to the staff. I think that's the only way that you can work. And unfortunately, if you're going to take full responsibility for anything that goes wrong, naturally you'll always be on alert to make sure that things are run as smooth as possible.
Yeah, it's a tough shift. What does the next 5 years look like then? Does that get better for you? Are you less involved? What's kind of blue sky thinking?
For what the next 5 years look like, probably would be so hard to. Whenever I look back, what I thought 5 years was going to look like, if I go back 5 years, it's nothing like where we thought. Ideally, 5 years ago, we thought, yep, that moving forward, maybe taking a back seat and things will run the way that it normally runs and stuff. And it's not too long ago, maybe 6 months, where I had a friend come to me and was like, they were going to open a hospitality place, and they had this plan that in 6 months' time they would be stepping back, and it would just be the money would be rolling in. And I had to sort of sit down and say, look, I thought that unless you're going to roll up the sleeves, put your boots on every morning, it ain't going to work, and there's no point of doing it. And I think 5 years' time, I think I always say that we're done moving forward and evolving, but my wife and I we're the sort of people that you have to move forward, and you don't take every opportunity, but whenever things come along, you look at it. We look at numbers. We look at, is it physically possible, and then we try to make it work. I think not that we're running just whatever way the wind blows. That's not right of saying that. We base everything on facts, any decision and stuff on facts. But I think we base our decisions on where we can see trends moving forward. And I have ideas in my head that where we see trends moving forward, we've discussed it with the wife and our operations manager, and sometimes they roll their eyes and think you're completely way out there. But as things keep moving forward, and we're like there's little reminders, and I'm like, I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen.
Following your gut.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's following your gut, but not just sticking your what way's the wind blowing today. We base everything on facts and figures, and that's probably where my strength will be. And where we've learnt in the last 5 years that we take emotion out of all our decisions now, and we just look at facts, figures. And those can still be wrong at times, but we have to try and take emotion out of it and see making decisions on emotion. That's where we're a small family business, and a lot of those decisions in a small family business is made on an emotional decision, and we try to eliminate that now as much as we possibly can. And that's probably the hardest thing that we've learned in business, just take all that out of it and base it just on the numbers.
I always ask everyone I have on the podcast, like, what advice would you give to somebody, like you said, like a friend of yours going into the hospitality industry, trying to set up a fast food or a restaurant? Is that your piece of advice, or is there any other nugget of kind of...
We got into this industry by me saying, I would love to own a fish and chip shop or something like that, and I love that industry. If I was going back now and someone else was saying that and they said, I'm going to open a fish and chip shop, I want to open a fish and chip shop, the first thing I would say, we need to take that right back. Yes, you want to open that, but now start looking at, is there a need for a fish and chip shop where you are? Is it going to be, and take all that emotion that you want out of it and open a hospitality business where there's a need. Because if you just open it because you want to open one there or something, I think that's the advice that I would give someone. I think if I had got that advice, I don't think I would have opened, because where we opened our first fish and chip shop was in the wrong place.
So now I don't know if it's good advice or not.
I know, but what we did get then was for the shop that we're in at the moment, it became available. It was way out of our budget range. It needed a total renovation, and it was way more than what we ever thought that we could ever afford to do. But what we did do then was we sat down and we looked at the numbers and thought, right, there is a way here that we can make this work, and if we do it and do it right, it's going to work. So we effectively we did take the emotion out of the second shop that we opened, which was the shop now that's our bread and butter.
Amazing. And obviously you didn't get that piece of advice, but what is the best piece of advice you've ever got from a business point of view?
Probably the best piece of advice, whenever we went to open our first fish and chip shop, we went then, I'd done a 3-day training course with a guy, Alan Hanna, who owned the pit stop in Kilkeel, had won multiple awards, done a training school. I spent 3 days with him, and we had the bar and we had the restaurant, and we had a bit of a knowledge through the food thing with the restaurant and stuff. And I went down to, and on the first day, at the end of the first day's training, Alan Hanna was sort of speaking to a few ones, and he said to me was, unless you're prepared to sacrifice absolutely everything, this isn't the industry for you to be in. And that wasn't directed at me, it was just directed at everybody that was doing. And I drove 2-hour drive home that night. I didn't necessarily phone Kat until I was sort of halfway home, because that kept sticking in my head, and I was like, I have to sacrifice everything. And I went back down for the second day's training. It was sort of classroom based the first day, and the second day's training, I come up the road and saw the way he was doing everything and the way he was doing it, and I was like, if we're going to be really serious at this here, what that guy has said was right. And we had a decision to make then. I was like, do we sacrifice everything to put into this here? And we sort of thought, yeah, that's the only way we're going to make this work. And if it hadn't have been just the way he generically said that to everyone, if it hadn't have been him saying that there, I think we would have opened the shop with the wrong mindset, and I'm not sure if it would have worked. So I think going right, but that's something that's always stuck in my head. And
it proved correct as well, right?
I did prove correct, yeah.
It sounds like from the amount of like mental load it takes from you, you're giving it everything all the time.
Yeah, and I'm not ashamed of it. I thought, not that I thought it was going to be easy, but I thought opening a fish and chip shop was, easy is not the right word, I'm not sure of the word to use, but whenever I finished my second day training with Alan, I was like, oh, I have a lot to learn in a short space of time here. And to this day, we still base everything on the training that we received from that man. Like, and anytime we win an award, he's the first guy I phone. Yeah, and he's in my phone as Mr. Fish and Chips instead of Alan Hanna. And he's retired now. He had a bit of bad health and stuff there, and I do like to still stay in contact with him now and again. Like, and he to me, he's in my phone as Mr. Fish and Chips. I'm not sure if he knows that or not, but I'm sure if
he watches this and finds that out. That's great. So a couple of quick fire questions then. So what is your order from your own place?
Oh, I'm fish and chips and a curry sauce.
Beautiful. Salt and vinegar?
Vinegar and salt. Always vinegar first. It's a great way in our industry, but it has to be vinegar first, and no vinegar on the fish.
No vinegar on the fish.
No vinegar on the fish. So if you go to travel at home, it leaves the bar too soggy.
Wow, there's
I'm giving out all the no. All our staff know that, but some customers want it and they ask for it.
And then you're willing to sacrifice the integrity of the batter.
Yeah.
Love that. Favourite restaurant up north?
Zen in Belfast. So it's like a Japanese style restaurant. The kids and stuff love it.
I've been there actually.
Yeah, really good. Really
cool.
good. Service, everything's exceptional. It's somewhere where us as a family, and our kids are, the middle one especially she's all into sushi and stuff at the moment. She goes and that's what she gets, and the food and the service is exceptional on it. That's my little downtime, getting that.
Yeah, it's got a nice kind of cool vibe to it as well.
Yeah,
right?
It's just got a really nice relaxing vibe, and we probably don't get to go out and eat out as much as we probably should, because whenever we do get downtime, I actually enjoy cooking at home.
No.
So doing just being at home. I think whenever we're out of that hustle and bustle all the time, my downtime is I like to be at home, but it is nice to go out now and again. But definitely that would be our little thing where there's something for all the family enjoy it.
Okay, great. And death row meal then? What are you having? Starter, main course, dessert, last meal ever?
I'm going to be really... Starter would be something seafoody.
Nice.
And then it would either be my own fish and chips or I'm predominantly I like a steak. If it was last meal, a steak, some nice garlic chips and a nice garlic butter or something on the steak.
Maybe a little bottle of wine or something with it?
Yeah, every time we go out, I always order a glass of red wine. I love a glass of red wine, but I don't normally don't finish it. If I'm going for somewhere, I do like a beer and a nice cold beer, relaxed. That would be me. But I always do order a glass. I think I like the thought of a glass of wine more than I like the glass of wine.
It's very sophisticated to sit there,
I think
swilling it. Yeah, you look pensive. And dessert, what are you having for dessert?
I wouldn't necessarily be a sweet person.
Okay.
But I would.
You're prolonging your own death here, though, so you got to
I'm
get
trying
something
to prolong
in.
it. We were in Greece at Kat's sister's wedding in Corfu 2 years ago. We went to a little restaurant and we had a panna cotta where they came and they made it at the table and stuff, and it was, to this day, it was the best dessert I ever had. And the guy who come and done it, he explained what he was doing and everything was exceptional. And if I was there, I would bring that guy over, and that dessert just totally blew me away. I still talk about it to this day, and I actually would. I've said to the wife, "Oh, I go back to that island just purely to go to that restaurant, purely for that dessert." And I'm not a dessert person.
It's amazing the food can have that impact on somebody.
Yeah, and
right?
that had the impact on me that night was exceptional. Just service, everything. But the way they made the panna cotta, they brought all the ingredients out and made it in front of you, and it was all. We said that going out now for food, even if it's only a takeaway, it's an experience, and that was an experience. And if you can create that, you're onto a winner.
I almost feel bad for people that aren't like foodies or don't enjoy food. Like I have a couple of mates who just eat to fuel themselves, and I'm like, you're missing out on so much. So much experience. And
I think that's what it is. And I love that. You have to get an experience whenever you go out now. And that's what it's all about. And that's filtering into the takeaway industry. You have to make that experience of, should that be from ordering, delivery, the food ready on time that you've committed to, all that there, that customer has to feel that half decent experience.
I feel like I might know the answer to the next question, but one person that you've met in your career that you think would be a great guest for us to have on the podcast. Is it Mr. Fish and Chips?
Yeah, Mr. Fish and Chips, it was like, he's done that for a lifetime. He's retired now. He's been on the board of the National Federation of Fish Fryers. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he wants to share his knowledge and his passion of fish and chips. That was the one thing that sort of how I got sort of so attached to him and listened to him and just being a sponge anytime there was around him. He wants to help people in this industry, which this industry can be very poor for that, and people not wanting to know what they do, they think that their little shop or their shop's really good at, and not wanting to share that knowledge. I think for us all to grow, I think we need to be better at communicating and talking among ourselves. And I know Michael from the Food to Go industry is working extremely hard at trying to bring a closed door industry to get them to open their doors and talk, which I think it's good. I could sit and talk to people about fish and chips from morning to night, and I love this industry, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, you have to kind of see each other as a community, right? It's not just like, if somebody orders fish and chips from you, that means I'm going out of business. It's not like that.
No.
It's yeah.
And we get it. We have, where we're based, we have a few restaurants or other takeaways who we work quite well with. If we're running out of something, we can lift the phone. They'll give us the lend of it. The same way some of the other guys, I could be standing frying and somebody comes in the back door and he's like, I need the lend of chips. Like, just take them there and give them back tomorrow. I've got plenty. Or we've got a few that we work with that way. Not enough. That needs to change, because we all can get caught short with produce and stuff, and we need more in our, not only in our area but all together. And I think everyone's quite open that, and that again, that's evolving, and it's better than what it was.
But
I still have friends that whenever I'm back in our valley and I go into the chip shop that I was talking to you about, coming out and they're like, what are you doing in there? I was like, my chip shop's 50 minutes away. I'm not going to drive down there for a burger or a piece of fish. Like, I like supporting people in other villages and stuff, and it was the same. We stay a lot in Portrush, which is the next town to, or we stay a lot there over the summer and stuff, and I use the local takeaways and stuff there rather than driving around to get it from work. I like that, supporting other people, and I think that is something that the industry needs to get better at. But we are moving forward, and that'll not just change overnight.
That's good. It's good to hear that we're going in the right direction. But last question for you then is, where can people find you? What are your social medias or website? How do we
Yeah, we've Chipmongers Port Stewart is the main fish and chip shop. Beside that, we have Fat Pizza, and then just 10 miles away in another village, Bushmills, we have North Coast Pizza, and then we have just recently there 2 months ago in Port Stewart, still where the main Chipmongers is, we've moved into, we have a coffee shop down at overlooking the harbour called Ebb Coffee, which we're lucky enough now, we've got a real good food offering in there, a higher end coffee offering, and that's been a whole new ball game evolving into that, because the coffee industry now is every bit as diverse as what the fish and chips was, and it's a whole new science. The same 2 years ago, whenever we opened the pizza shop, we make all our own dough. That was a complete learning curve for months and months. I nearly locked myself away in a room to try and get the dough recipe right, and
the science of
it's a total science and dough, and it's something we've got something now that works in both our shops, and it works now the other side of things now. But I think the one thing that we have done in anything that we have done, we have Mr. Fish and Chips, who I went and learnt and engrossed myself with him. We had another guy who we met in London who was an Italian, worked in a Michelin star pizza shop in Milan. We went to him and got the right proper training and stuff on how to make our own dough. With the coffee now, we have a guy, James Price, who's knows, well, he's on my phone as Mr. Coffee. So
I can see a trend
you
here.
can see a trend coming there. That's, and whenever I talk to him, half the time as Mr. Coffee, because he knows everything about coffee. But without those people, and without bringing those people who have got those expertise in their own field, without bringing them, I wouldn't have the knowledge to do that. And I think that was, whenever we've moved into the pizza side of things and now the coffee side of things, I think that still stands me in good stead, that day that I come home from the second day's training with Mr. Fish and Chips, where I was like, we have an awful lot to learn here, we need this guy. I think now whenever anything else we go to do, it's right, let's find who is the best in this industry that's willing to share their knowledge, and you have to attach yourself to that person and be a sponge around them before you open into a different industry.
It's about kind of being humble enough to say, I don't know, or I'm not the expert here. And like, I think people who kind of go in believing they know everything, even if they have a decent knowledge, you're not leaving any room there to grow or to get better.
I think it was Kat would probably know or understand more of the coffee than me at the moment. And we do a lot of event catering too. We had a coffee trailer at a football match last night, and it was myself and Kat was working it, and I'm sure her head was sore because I was just like, why are you doing it that way? Why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it that way? But I'm trying to absorb because she knows it, and she's like, just shut up and get the coffee out. But again, there's a science behind all that, and you need to know it, and that's probably something that myself I need to understand that. Whenever we opened the pizza shop, we had our own pizza chefs and stuff, but I had to physically go in there and learn that whole process from start to finish myself. So I'm happy in my own head that we're doing things right. And it's the same with the coffee now, which is the first meeting that I went with your guy James. He roasts all his own coffee and stuff, and I left the house about 5 o'clock that afternoon. I told Kat that I'd be home about 7:30. She phoned me at 12 o'clock that night to see where I was, and we were just sitting there, and he was just blowing my mind about where you can go with coffee. And we drunk about 8 little espressos of coffee, and I come home at 12 o'clock that night and my eyes was wide open, and I didn't sleep for about 2 days. But I got so engrossed in it, and that's what I do. Anything we go to do, I get so engrossed in it and need to learn it from back door to front door.
Every day's a school day in hospitality, right?
Yeah, and if you are not willing to learn, you're going to get left behind.
Well, thank you so much for coming all the way to share that this has been great. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you get home safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.